Hi, I'm Leyla Acaroglu, and it is a pleasure to be with you here today. I'm going to be talking about future positive design. Now, if you're not familiar with my work, I'm a designer and a sociologist deeply passionate about turning design into a transformative tool for a better future. I am the founder of a design agency based out of New York called Disrupt Design, where we take commissions to support a transition to a sustainable and circular economy. And I'm also a 2016 Champion of the Earth from the United Nations Environment Program. One of my most loved projects is the Unschool of Disruptive Design. It's an experimental knowledge lab I founded 7 years ago, and we run programs all over the world as well as online around these three pillars of systems thinking, sustainability, and design and creativity as tools for transforming the world so that it works better for all of us. I've been absolutely blessed to be able to run these programs in many countries around the world, from Sao Paulo to Kuching to Melbourne, Australia, and to work at different levels of government and industry, as well as in the education sector. Most recently, I worked to transform the way sustainability is educationally taught in the Finnish education system. We prepared this wonderful free resource, which you're welcome to download, called the Circular Classroom, which offers a higher school educational tools for the circular transformation that is currently underway. So, of course, I'm sure you're all aware of the Sustainable Development Goals issued by the United Nations in 2015. For this decade, the 17 goals that if we can address, we can move into a sustainable future. Now, I was fortunate enough to collaborate with the UN to create an initiative to help everyday people consider the consumption choices that they have and how these impact the natural world. And we came up with this tool and this campaign called the Anatomy of Action. We all have one, it's our hand. Every day we make choices. With our hands, we take action, and across the way we select food, what stuff we buy, how we move around our cities, how we spend our money, and how we have fun, these all impact us in different ways. And the tool that we created helps people take everyday actions to help address these issues and to positively frame the challenges that we have. Because I do truly believe that one of the problems we face is that we do not know how to love problems, and sustainability is just an innovation opportunity in disguise. So one thing that's happened recently is geologists and earth system scientists around the world have come together to explore the concept that we have moved into a new geological era called the Anthropocene, meaning the age of man or humans. Now, for 11,500 years, we have lived in a stable climatic period called the Holocene, which has meant that we've been able to build our advanced industrialized societies. But of course, this has come at an expense. And what a lot of scientists have started to discover is that in the geological records of the Earth, we have left a layer, a very clear layer of impact, whether it be soot from burning coal from the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, to nuclear isotopes from all of the nuclear tests we did, to technology, to all of the different minerals and chemicals that have gone into our atmosphere, gone into our oceans, gone into our soil. These have demonstrated that humans have had this profound impact on the world around us. And in my opinion, that means that it is a moment in time where we can take this knowledge, take this reality, and turn it into something positive. So we are blessed to live on this tiny little planet in the universe, the only known life-sustaining planet in this entire universe, and it's because of this thing called the biosphere, which is this zone of life between the atmosphere and the earth, and it is filled with so much natural diversity. And sustainability is not only about us making sure that we can meet our own needs, it's about figuring out how to live within the systems that the earth has, and this is about being a regenerative force. For me, sustainability, whilst the technical definition is to ensure that the decisions that we make today don't have negative impacts on current and future generations. It's also about ensuring that we can be a positive, transformative force on the planet so that that Anthropocene can be turned into something good. And aside from the big pressing issues we have with climate change, one of the other major issues we face is biodiversity loss. A recent report from the United Nations showed that the rate of loss of species of all shapes and sizes is the worst it's ever been in the history of the Earth, with over 1 million species threatened with extinction today. And this is not just about the loss of, say, delightful animals that we all love to look at and enjoy, but our entire food system relies on pollinators. It relies on biodigesters to break down the minerals and the nutrients and put them back into the plants so that when we eat those plants, we get the benefit. So it's super important that we understand the complex beauty of nature and how it works. And as designers, we learn how to operate within that and not against it. And really, that's what I wanted to share with you today, some of the ways that we can do that. So designing a sustainable future is about creating the products and services that enable humanity to live a prosperous, healthy, and happy and equitable life on this planet, but without destroying the systems that we rely on in order to survive, but also that all other species need in order for their livelihood and survival. We live on a big interconnected planet, and we are interdependent with all other species. Yet humans have created this, what's called a linear system, where we take resources out of the ground, we process them into usable goods, and ultimately we generate waste. Whereas in nature, there is no such thing as waste. It's only us where we have created toxic or complicated materials that can't be biometabolized back into the natural world. So when we look at this from a design perspective, we see that there are multiple points of intervention that we can take. So if we just think the old idea of the waste hierarchy, where recycling is the kind of lower preference, but the most desirable outcome is to design waste out of the system. And that's really what we are trying to do right now. We are trying to figure out how, as creatives, as participants in this economy, we can create regenerative products, services, and systems, things that give back more than they take. And this is a complex conversation to have, and it's one that we are in the moment of figuring out. But the ideas that we have to achieve sustainability in design and in production and business have been around for decades. We've been looking at cleaner production, at the circular economy, at sustainable architecture, at different technologies that absorb chemicals, and there are so many things happening. It's really a case of not only being aware and educating yourself, but finding the motivation to love these problems and integrating them into your practice and into your professional role. One of the key concepts is this idea of stewardship, extended producer responsibility, or product stewardship. It's about companies taking ownership over the goods they produce throughout their entire life, not just producing, selling, and then hoping for the best, or even just saying that it's recyclable. That doesn't guarantee any environmental benefits or social positive outcomes unless you as the producer can control the life of the product. And so when we're looking at this transition to the circular economy, which is taking that linear wasteful system and taking each of the endpoints and creating circular systems, from a production perspective, from a design perspective, that's about understanding the full life of the product and ensuring that there are strategies in place and systems that you are helping to create, collaborating with stakeholders and partners to ensure that those materials and that product are appropriately reabsorbed into the natural world or into a technical world where they can be effectively remanufactured, repaired, reconditioned, or resold. So this is called product service system models. This is the technical definition of changing the way we deliver goods and services into the economy. So instead of just selling a usable good that you don't have any control over after it's been purchased by the customer, you are ultimately designing the full life of the product and the service delivery around that product. So I'm going to give you some examples of this. So basically the concept here is to design waste out of the system and to manage the full life of the product. So There are a couple great examples of that. Unilever partnered with the US recycling company TerraCycle to create this concept called Loop. It's now being rolled out across the US and Europe. Essentially, it's partnering with retailers to deliver everyday consumable household products, cleaning products, ice cream, condiments, in packaging that is designed to be reused, so rewashed, refilled, so the customer subscribes, they get them delivered to their house, they use them, they put them back in a box, and when they're reordering their new products, the delivery driver takes back the old ones and it goes back through the system several times. So it's designed as a closed loop product service system model. But we've got other great examples. There's this company in Scotland that is collaborating with the waste product of this big bakery, and they're turning old bread into beer. You have a company in Portugal that's taking its factory waste from production of shoes, fully recycling that and creating 100% recycled and recyclable shoes that people can send back, and they can go back through the cycle once they no longer need them. So essentially this concept of sustainable design in the circular economy, or what I call circular systems design, is about redesigning everything. And that's not just the products, it's the whole service delivery model and the business models that enable us to have a healthy economy. And that's really what sustainability is about. It's about harmonizing the social, economic, and environmental impacts of our choices as individuals, as companies, as cultures, as societies, and as a planet as a whole. So there are many different sustainable design strategies that you can apply, such as ensuring that something is modular, it is reusable, but these can also apply to like the whole business model. And I think as designers, more and more, we are being asked to help companies reconfigure the way they deliver their value into the economy. So I'm going to run through some of the strategies that apply to circular systems design. Obviously, repair is critical. We live in an age where technology and a lot of the most complex products are intentionally designed to not enable repair. And that has negative impacts, not only on the planet, but also on the individual who's invested in that high value product and has no right to repair it if they drop it, if it breaks, if the technology gets outdated. So designing for repair means not only designing for disassembly, easily having different screws, not gluing things together, but also creating repair manuals and working with providers in the country you're selling your product into to ensure that there are easily accessible repair services. This could even involve selling spare parts to your customers as well. A great example of this is Fairphone, the Dutch phone company that is fully modular, and it's designed for the user to repair. You can go on their website and buy different components if you break your screen, and it's quite easy for you to repair at home. Another one is remanufacture. So this is where you design your products so that they come back to you. You can disassemble them effectively, take the different components, and then remanufacture the good and resell it into the market. It could also mean collaborating with other partners, because obviously a lot of companies are quite distributed these days, and so you're not able to perhaps have your product shipped back to where it's manufactured. This could be about encouraging small-scale remanufacture or reconditioning in the point of sale locations as well. But the key thing here is that the high value components are designed to be taken apart and reconfigured again. Resell. Now, we're seeing a lot of this happen in the sustainable fashion and apparel industry, but what this means from a design perspective is considering the longevity of your product, ensuring that it is designed for longevity, but also not just in the materials, but also in the kind of cultural longevity. Like, you know, we love Eames chairs because they've got that classic design. So how do you ensure that the products you're creating have that longitudinal model? And it might actually be that you're offering the service of reselling. IKEA has just done this, where they are now have an app where once you're no longer, using your IKEA products, you take a photo of it, you upload it to the app, they'll give you a price and they will buy it back off you and then resell it themselves. So ultimately, they're helping to control that market and they're benefiting from that from a profit perspective as well. Now, sharing platforms are another way as a circular business model, where we're looking at innovating around the ability to share resources. We've seen this in the UK, they have tool libraries. There's a new website called Fat Llama where people can share resources. I could rent somebody my car or rent somebody my cell phone, my spare cell phone. Whilst this obviously for some producers might be fear-inducing because they think that their products will then basically it'll reduce sales. That's why it's so important that a good company with a foresight thinks about how they can have a full integrated system where they can offer different types of value to their customers based on the product offerings that they have. Another really key concept is a waste as resource. So in sustainable design, we talk about inputs going into the outputs and vice versa. We're always trying to maximize the value of the materials, continually cycling them through the economy. So this is often about collaborating with other companies or organizations where perhaps waste products from your production can go in to become the resource of another, or vice versa. You can have a waste product come into your manufacturing process to reduce waste going out into the wider world. Another key one, and this is often hard for some producers to get their head around because we do live in an age of disposability and economic benefits from that, but really we have so much drive from the consumer base for products that last longer, that have longevity built into them. And the idea of extending the life of the product is about also ensuring that customers have the information they need to be able to care for their product appropriately so that it lasts a long time. And we talked about this concept of transitioning to a product service system model. The idea is to reimagine how you deliver functionality into the economy. So every product that's created is delivering functionality, if that's to make a phone call, if that's to carry hot liquid. And so how can you reimagine that functionality so that it's the least materials, the highest value for the customer, and the most likelihood of not ending up as something escaping into the natural world, in the oceans, or even in a landfill or an incineration facility, having those valuable materials lost. So really, circularity is about changing the way we value materials and deliver functionality into the economy. It's about recovering resources. It's about thinking about the full life of a product right from the beginning. Now, I know I've just run through a lot very quickly here, but don't worry, I've produced a lot of free resources to help people like you start your sustainability journey. If you want, you can go to the Unschool's website and download this free circular redesign toolkit that goes through all of these different strategies that I've just talked about and guides you through a rapid redesign process. Now, I know many of you are designers. I love design. I think it's one of the most powerful things that humans have created because we can shape and sculpt the world around us to meet our needs. But in doing that, we also can create some unintended negative consequences. Like we create addictive systems. We know technology is one of the most incredible things that we've created, but it also has some downsides. So aside from the fact that as we become more and more Industry 4.0, Internet of Things, the amount of technology in our lives is increasing, the longevity of those products is decreasing, and the environmental impact of processing the end of life of those products is becoming astronomical. You know, there's millions of tons of electronic waste that are illegally trafficked for processing around the world every year, and this is becoming an increasingly equity issue as well as an environmental issue. And then, of course, we have the issue of the social impacts of products that are designed to lock us into different consumption cycles. So we know about this concept of dark patterning, which in technology has been used to exploit the kind of biases in the human brain. We know that the continuous scroll on social media is designed to simulate the dopamine response of a slot machine, or where particular buttons and places of things are designed to essentially manipulate people to stay stuck in that system. But the problem with all of this, the whole, Internet of Things and the future of technology, is that it's becoming one of the biggest climate change impacts. In fact, it's predicted that soon the information technology sector will be the biggest energy user in the world, overcoming the airline industry and the electricity industry. And that's because Everything we do on the internet has a footprint, a physical footprint. It requires servers and energy, and that creates heat. So there's this huge impact associated with every action we take on the internet. And if you're a UX designer, then the choice of colors, the shapes and sizes, the load time, the size of images, this all impacts how big a footprint your website, your app has on the world around you. And so there are multiple points of intervention, not just in the physical form of the products, but also in the digital and the technological forms as well. So another thing I really want to raise awareness about is greenwashing. Now, I've worked in sustainability for over 20 years. I've been deeply passionate about helping designers, creatives, and producers figure out how to create sustainable products and services. But I've also been witness to some horrendous cases of greenwashing. Greenwashing is when a company spends more money on promoting the sustainability principles of their product than they actually do in ensuring that the product is sustainable. Now, we've seen this accidentally or unintentionally, where companies, they hire somebody who perhaps doesn't have the technical skills, they do some basic research, they make some decisions about, say, using a paper product, and then they use that assuming that it's going to be environmentally beneficial. But then unfortunately, they discover that it's not, or a third party discovers it's not, and then they get in trouble. Like, we see this a lot happening. But then we also have some companies, as was the case with Volkswagen, who were actually uncovered in covering up a scandal with regards to the emissions of their vehicles. So there is a rise in combating greenwashing, especially as we see this new interest from the financial sector in ESG, which stands for Environment, Social and Governance Reporting. Now, the thing about the circular economy, as I've been saying, it's about transitioning the way we deliver goods and services into the economy. But I thought it was necessary to talk about some more of the technical details for you all today. So there are two kind of sides to a circular transformation. One is the concept that we have biological materials or nutrients that can be easily metabolized back into the natural world. So these are all your organic materials, they're uncoated paper products, they're not so much, say, metal and glass, which actually have to be reprocessed, but anything that the biological system around us can naturally degrade and reuse as building blocks for other things. So a great example of this is bio-based plastics. So these are plastics that are made from things like polylactic acid, from corn or sugarcane. And it's really important to understand that if you're going to be using these types of materials, you check the full life of their production, because not all biodegradable products can actually be biodegradable in a normal environment, meaning like a home composting, or if they ended up in the oceans. Compostable products are often available to be used in home composting, but a lot of the commercially available biodegradable plastics can only be processed in industrial biodigesters, which are fantastic, and I think that we should have more of them. But if you're going to select these types of materials to replace a normal plastic polymer, you need to make sure that the market that you're selling your product into has the appropriate recycling or capturing facilities to get any environmental benefit. And then on the other side of this kind of circular transformation model, we have what are called technical nutrients, and that's all of the technological products that we create, which is, of course, your high value tech products, but also anything that's engineered, or processed in a way that then means that it needs to go back into an industrial facility in order to be broken down and reused again. So metals, as I said, glass, complex plastics. And so by understanding these two cycles, you can ensure that products are going through the right system and that you're designing for the end of life right from the start. And when we're looking at this transformation, it's about full systems change, and this is critical. In order to support businesses in this transformation, I've developed this process called the 3-dimensional business transformation for sustainability, and it involves 3 key areas. Every company has operational impacts. They're essentially the impacts associated with energy, waste, water, and usually done at the factory or the office site. But every company is also participating in a supply chain, and they are therefore either producing or consuming products. And of course, they're also providing goods and services which have an experiential element to them. So this model requires you to think through all of the different impacts, from those general operational impacts where we're looking at environmental management, understanding what type of energy we're buying, how that's being produced, developing environmental policies for how waste is managed at our factories. But then really importantly is the product element. And that is ensuring that the whole life of the product is designed to be sustainable. This requires using life cycle thinking, which is based on the scientific approach of life cycle assessment, which looks at the whole of life environmental impact of a product, service, or system, all the way from material extraction through manufacturing of those materials into usable goods, the packaging and transportation of your products, the use phase, and end of life. And in life cycle thinking, we can use life cycle mapping to understand the inputs and outputs, to explore the environmental and social impacts at each stage of the product's life cycle. And from that, if you get assessments done, you can apply to have environmental product declarations, which help your customers understand the environmental credentials of your products. Now, International Standard Organization has all of the guidelines on this, and you can look that up, and you can also explore how to do life cycle thinking. Again, I've produced a lot of free resources that explain in detail how to do these kinds of assessments. Critically as well, we have supply chain sustainability. So once you understand the full life of your product, you can start to explore the impacts associated with different elements of your supply chain. Now, the UN have developed a great guideline on this called the UN Global Compact. This will help you explore the social and environmental impacts of your product across the full supply and value chain. And once you've done that, you have to look at the experiential side, and that is the touch points and the service interaction. Now, especially when we're looking at the transition to the circular economy, a lot of this is about having that closed loop where products have to come back to you, or they have to go to the right destination so that they're managed at the end of life. And that means that you have to really understand your customers and create that experience that is seamless and beautiful so that they can participate in the transformation with joy and ease. Now, the other thing that is critical in this transformation is to understand the systems that we exist within. I started by talking about the biosphere and the Anthropocene and ecosystems. But systems thinking is an amazingly powerful tool where instead of seeing the parts first, we see the whole, and the parts are making up the whole system. The relationships between things are what we are focusing on. There are different tools that people can apply. So obviously seeing things in relationships versus isolation, and looking for interconnected and interdependence first before things being just isolated and by themselves. We use systems thinking because if we don't understand the full system and the potential impacts of our actions, it's likely that the solutions that we create today will become tomorrow's problems. And so at a systems mindset, we can really ensure from the beginning the solutions that we're creating are holistic and that will have that powerful and positive impact. So really, to sum up, I know I've covered a lot, and I hope that I've challenged you to think differently about the role of design in the world. But the way I see it is moving towards a circular economy is about changing the value proposition of everything that we do as designers. It's about ensuring that we can create functional, beautiful, and incredibly enjoyable and economically viable products and services, but doing it in a way that meets our needs without destroying the natural systems that we rely on for survival. We are truly in a unique opportunity where we can design a positive future. What we're missing right now is people like you taking on that agency, learning the skills and applying that to every product and process that you're involved in. You know, the opportunity for us to design a better future is there right now, and I truly believe we can achieve it. And I hope that you'll join me and the millions of other people passionate about a sustainable future to ensure that we can make that happen. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.